So today I'll be explaining this dynamic component. So this is generated from this JSON file. So here if I add a JSON object and hit save, it should also be added here. If I remove this and hit save, it should be removed here. To build this, we need some data. We need this CSS file. We need this these two images. Okay. So our app.js looks very simple. We import the JSON data and then we pass the data inside our component. Inside our component, we received the passed data, we store it inside a constant. Okay. We have the styles imported. We have a global variable. If I change this to 1 second, it should be changing really fast here. Okay. So first this line runs. This useEffect sets a delay state using this global variable. So this delay state is then used by another useEffect. So if we don't do this and if we directly use this 3000 here, we don't need this here, and if I hit save now, if I reload, so for the first 3 seconds our user will see nothing. Then the user will see the second testimonial which is not correct. To avoid this, we use the state variation of the delay. Okay, so we use this state. So what this state does is, for the initial time, for the first time when this useEffect runs, right, it will be 100 milliseconds, and then for the following testimonials it will be 3 seconds. So that's why we use this state variation of the delay. So this useEffect will run only once because it has empty dependency array. Whenever the component mounts for the first time, this useEffect will run, and this useEffect will run whenever the state changes. So index is the most important. Okay, so what this useEffect does is this sets a timeout to change the index state. Okay, so for the after 3 seconds a state will be changed, index state will be changed. Okay, so if for example the index state is 0, then it will change to +1, so it will change 1. So if the index state is 0, it will add +1. If it is 1, then it will add +1. If it is 2, like, and so on and so forth. Okay, but when the index is at maximum 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so 4, when 4 is equal to 4, right, index starts from 0, that's why -1. We want the testimonial to reset back to 0, so it will come back to 0. This 0 will be the index state. Okay, so that's how this whole works. And what we are doing here is we are setting this timeout inside a reference. We are storing this timeout inside a timeout reference. We are using a useRef here. So whenever we set a timeout, we have to clear the timeout as well, or else the timeout will be just created over and over again. For like 3 seconds a new timeout will be created, and the previous timeout will not be cleared. So our performance it's not good for the performance. So what we do here inside the return function of useEffect is we clear the timeout using the reference. Okay, so how useEffect runs is first this function will run and then this function will run. That's all. This is how useEffect runs. For the first time this will not run because it doesn't even exist. Okay, so useEffect, so first this function will run and then this function will run. That's all. For the first render, this function will not run because this doesn't even exist. For the testimonial to change automatically, we just need this timeout and we need nothing else. But for this click functionality, we need these two functions, this function and this dot clicks handler function. So first I'll explain this. This function sets the index state. If we don't do this, our dot clicks will work fine, okay, but it will not be in sync with our timeout. You see the error here. So to make the timeout and our dot clicks in sync, we do this, okay. And this following code, like array for each of the testimonials, for every testimonials we are just adding and removing some classes, okay. So for the text we are adding this class, and for the dots we are removing this class, okay. So our testimonials, wait, I'll show you a thing. This is the class that we are adding and removing. If I comment this, so all the testimonials are visible. So this is very important style here, okay. So for each testimonial we are for the text we are saying that we don't want anything to be visible, and for the dots we are saying that we don't want any dot to be an active dot. And then for these two lines of code, we are saying we want the text to be visible on which the dot has been clicked, on the index of the dot, okay. Same for the dot as well. We want this dot to be out of these 5 dots, we want the clicked dot to be the active dot, okay. That's why we use the index here, okay. So we use this index here and we remove and add the styles for every dots and every testimonial. So this is how this function runs. Whenever we click, this function will run, and this will set an index state which will then initiate this use state to run. So when our testimonial text changes automatically, we want the active dots also to change, and for that we use this dots helper function. So this function will run whenever the JSX renders, okay. So that dot helper is called here in the render. So this function returns a class name which is responsible for this active dot. So if the dot is active, then dot active class will be returned and it will be set for the active dot, okay. So inside this dot helper function we see a class name returned. So if we return some other class, our active dot is not visible, okay. And for our HTML code, we have a parent div. We have 2 childs for that parent. One child is for the dots and one child is for the text, okay. In the dots div, we have a div as acting as a dot, and for the text child, we have the left code div, right code div, and this main text div. So this is the right code div, this is the left code div, okay. So this is the div which holds the text. So this is the author, so this author here, and this is the main testimonial itself. Repository link will be given below. Thank you.